Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Space Show, a very special episode of the Space Show.
Oh, very special.
Um, very special because we did it, baby. We have watched all of the episodes except for one.
More importantly, you did it.
I did it. We have watched all of the episodes of the original series, and today we're going to talk about the last 4 episodes, not only of season 3 but of the show as a whole. How are we feeling, gang?
Tired.
Yeah, that's what, if you allow for time and condense. I was surprised that an unedited episode of Star Trek is 50 minutes. Allowing for commercials.
Dios mío, seriously.
Which means we now currently allow 4 more minutes of advertising time in our television.
And less in syndication. They have to trim episodes for syndication.
Wowie wow. So
and
79
you know what?
episodes. Woo.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Some of the episodes could be an email.
Me. Oh,
like
we'll start with the empath.
So
Let's go there.
Before we dive into the episodes, by the way, today we are talking about the Cloudminders, the Savage Curtain, All Our Yesterdays, and Turnabout Intruder. But before we talk about it, I would like to share with you just a little something. Give me a moment while I do this.
Okay, well, that's Rebecca Frost.
Oh, hi, I'm Rebecca Frost, joined by Kerry Jackson and special guest Leigh George Kade. Thank you guys so much for joining me as we wrap up our discussion about season 3. If
you're on the YouTube, this is wonderful.
Yes. If you're watching along at home, I have pulled up an advertisement for the IDIC Vulcan pendant. Allow me to read to you. Here it is, IDIC, here it is. At last, the long-awaited Vulcan pendant designed by Gene Roddenberry, creator and executive producer of Star Trek, and worn by Spock in the Star Trek episode Is There in Truth No Beauty? Rerun on June 10th, 1969. Infinite diversity in infinite combination represents a Vulcan belief that beauty, growth, progress all result from the union of the unlike. Concord, as much as discord, requires the presence of at least 2 different notes. The brotherhood of man is an ideal based on learning to delight in our essential differences as well as learning to recognize our similarities. The IDIC is a union of circle and triangle, uniting to produce the gemstone in the middle. The circle represents infinity, nature, woman, etc. The triangle can represent the finite, art, man, etc. And I would like to present to you my official from the Gene Roddenberry collection.
Was it still $7.90?
No, it was on Etsy for $25, but inflation. What's Biden's plan to fix inflation?
This what's great about this is I loved that paragraph describing the whole philosophy behind IDIC, and it's put in front of you with a crass commercialization.
Isn't that just? I love the metaphor of it all, right? Like how it was initially included in the episode, and even Leonard Nimoy was like, this feels so forced and heavy-handed. What's the deal? And Roddenberry said, yeah, it is actually just an advertisement for my money-making endeavors.
It's such a wonderful philosophy. Give me $750.
God,
hey kids, come get your Kabbalah necklace.
Yeah. Thanks, Madonna.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so sad to be talking about these episodes because I'm feeling like, when you finish a good book or a good TV show, you have show hangover. That's how I'm feeling about the end of this show. Turnabout Intruder ended, and then Paramount Plus was like, do you want to watch Next Generation now? And I'm like, well, no, not really.
No.
Yeah, I had to go back and reset everything just to get to the cage, which we're going to do next episode.
Next episode we're going to do we're going to talk about the cage and do kind of like an overall the original series
discussion. A post-mortem, if you would.
Post-mortem. But until then, the Cloudminders. Kirk and Spock are caught up in a revolution on a planet where intellectuals and artists live in on a utopian city in the sky, while the rest of the population toils in the mines on the barren surface below.
Troglodytes.
Yeah, it's interesting, this episode. Now this was the episode, Lee, you said you hadn't seen.
I hadn't seen it. I ended up watching a bunch of clips in the meantime to try to catch the bit, and I was just thinking of a classic rock song about the troglodyte where I'll sock it to you, baby, but that's not in this at all. So, but no, I still haven't actually seen this episode.
And honestly, clips are all you need because
Yeah.
this is an episode full of anti-maskers. History is doomed to repeat itself should we do not learn from it.
Exactly.
And this episode is just full of anti-maskers. And what do you mean I can be killed by something I can't see? I don't believe you.
You don't need that mask. You're fine. You're fine. What was great about that, though, using your analogy, is that if you wore the mask, you got smart. If you didn't wear the mask, you got stupid.
What a concept.
It's possible. It's possible. I mean, a lot of these guys, a lot of the writers were old enough that they either knew firsthand or they knew people who were around for the Spanish flu epidemic in the 19 teens, which killed tens of thousands of people and actually caused its own anti-mask hysteria, where they actually had to send federal troops into San Francisco to bust up an anti-mask protest because it was causing too much illness.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
Isn't that crazy?
Never learn, do we?
No, we don't.
No, even in the future. And I mean, the result of it's not a disease necessarily that's causing the dumbness, but just mining the xenite or whatever the mineral is emitting a gas that's
it's because Jim, there's an invisible gas that's emitted by the stuff that they're digging up down there, and it's making people stupid.
Well, and there's a moment too where Kirk traps himself and one of the hot miners in the cave, and she's like, we're going to run out of oxygen, like we're going to die. And he's like, oh, crazy, something we can't see is going to kill us? I thought you didn't believe in that.
Her name was Vanna, by the way, which I thought was interesting. Vanna.
It is interesting, though. Like, his big thing is that he's going to prove to her by becoming irrational, which he normally isn't. And then you get a few episodes later, and being irrational is a sure sign that you're a woman masquerading as a man. So I know you're getting to that, but I'm surprised she didn't say, I knew it, you were a woman all along, James Kirk. You're a rational bastard.
I know, you're so excited to talk about.
I am. It's the best episode of Star Trek ever made.
So the artists and the elites live in the city in the clouds, and the workers are down in the mines.
What's that? What's that? Is it a Matt
Metropolis.
Damon? Is it a Matt Damon movie too? Elysium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it also gets back to, you go all the way back to Fritz Lang's Metropolis, where the wealthy live up above the smog, and then the workers are all down below producing the means of production until they seize it for themselves, which makes for one hell of a political philosophy.
Unionization. I was watching this, and Andrew was very excited at first. He thought it was going to be a Romeo and Juliet story because
I see.
What's her name was so into Spock, which I love when the other women aren't attracted to Kirk and they're more fascinated by anybody else besides Kirk. And Kirk is just like, I don't understand it.
I'm the best boy.
I am the eldest boy. I'm the best boy.
Yeah.
Speaking of the fancy artwork, according to John M. Dwyer, the metal artwork and sculptures that appear throughout the city were mostly parts of metal furniture, like tables, etc., that he had rented from, air quotes, a guy up in Topanga Canyon, minus the glass tops, and much care had to be taken to return them in their original condition.
Yeah, I used to be able to get something from a guy up Topanga Canyon too, but it wasn't art.
It is also another piece of trivia. It's also interesting that Jeff Corey was cast as Placius, however you say his name, the leader of the privileged people on Stratos. For a number of years, he'd been blacklisted from working for allegedly being a communist.
Really? Oh,
yeah, something to think about.
Well, so they beam down to the city in the clouds, and they're met with,
Hello, what have we here?
but No, their met is, hey, how you doing? Everything's fine. Don't worry about it. And then suddenly it's, no, you guys get out. Get out. You're asking too many questions. Just get out.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you're asking an awful lot of questions.
Yeah.
Better
this was-
troglodytes.
Yeah. This is one of those episodes that, Lee, you're, like, let's say you're in the hospital and you can't go anywhere for a week.
And all TBS is showing is Scarface.
And then you could watch it. You could watch it then.
Okay. It was voted one of the worst episodes of the show.
This
Yeah,
one? Really?
it's-
Wow.
Not the absolute worst, but like in the top 40.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those where, whenever an episode starts, I can kind of tell if I'm going to be invested or not. And I definitely couldn't care less. There is one last piece of trivia I do want to talk about that nobody else is going to care about except me. The rest chamber on Stratos is furnished with the iconic ribbon chair by French modernist designer Pierre Paulin, upholstered here in Dayglow orange. And I will show you the chair.
I think I know the chair that you're going to bring up, the famous ribbon chair. Yes.
The ribbon
Ooh.
We've
chair.
That's
seen
kind
that.
of
So,
amazing.
Yeah. Now, haven't we seen that in a couple episodes? I want to say we have, but
Probably.
Look at those chiffon drapes, though.
lovely.
yeah. So if anybody happens to come across this chair just in the wild, let me know. I have to refurnish a whole house, so would love to make it as
Oh, man.
Star Trekky as possible.
I want to see that.
Especially if you put it in front of a wall of drapes like that.
Yes.
Yeah, my drape. You mean my drape room?
Yeah.
You need a drape room, a Star Trek drape room. It's just nothing
I'm here to see Rebecca Frost. Sorry, she's in the drapery, sir.
drape.
Please, right this way.
To the drapery.
I
We're
would like
serving Tranya in the drape room. Come on.
Tranya.
I would like to move on to one of the probably most memorable episodes of Star Trek, the original series, The Savage Curtain. Kirk, Spock, Abraham Lincoln, and Vulcan legend Serac are pitted in a battle against notorious villains from history for the purpose of helping a conscious rock creature's understanding of a concept he does not understand, good versus evil.
Which is good or evil.
I'm a rock. What's too hard to handle? Can't handle
guy-
me. I'm
the
too
guy
hot.
is lava, you know?
Yep.
Exactly. The planet is lava. The guy is lava.
And
I'm
old
gonna-
Two-Fists Kirk can't hit him because he's too hot.
Does my body temperature disturb you, Captain? I watched it. I acknowledge how stupid it is, but it's in my top 10 favorites. I admit it. It's so stupid, but it's in my top 10 favorite episodes. I have to admit.
I was again. This is an episode my husband was watching with me, kind of while he played video games, and I was like, "Babe, are you so excited? You have to be paying attention. A guy's gonna show up. You have to be paying attention." And Abraham Lincoln appears on the screen, and he goes, "What?"
Exactly.
Just
Exactly.
the only reaction to have.
That is
And
the proper reaction.
because this rock creature has mined the minds of Kirk and Spock, I guess, and has found their heroes and has recreated their heroes. And where to even begin? They keep referring to old measurements of time because that's how Abraham Lincoln knows how to measure things in minutes.
Sure.
Lincoln comes like 92% into dropping the N word. I mean, it's
Ooh,
yeah.
ooh, so close.
Yeah.
So close.
Yeah.
So he appears floating in space, and I still want my Hero Clicks, Space Lincoln, so I can play as Space Lincoln in a tabletop game. And they say, well, Mr. President, and they keep referring to him as Mr. President, and they say,
So
we'll
much
beam you
pomp.
aboard.
so much circumstance, Kirk demands everybody in their finest formal wear to greet the president.
Because he even says, he says, now I know this isn't the president, but he thinks he's the president. So we're going to play along. We'll see what happens. He beams on the ship and they're playing the presidential music. And Lincoln's looking, well, Lincoln's always, like this.
He's got his hands on his jacket, like
always
right
got his
up
hands
here.
up on his jacket. And he looks around and says, well, where's the band? I don't.
But then Kirk explains to him, oh, that's taped music. You're telling me in the future we still have taped music?
As far as you know. As far as they knew.
I mean, when did the compact disc hit?
It was 80s.
Yeah, so like the Voyager Starcraft had to send gold-plated records because that's all we could do to play the music. So
exactly, that's right.
So as far as they were concerned, tapes were like the pinnacle of technology.
Oh, absolutely.
8-track, Freedom Rock.
This new fangled cassette thing that was on the way.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Have you guys, semi-unrelated, have you guys been paying attention to that thing where it's on TikTok where women ask your man how often he thinks about the Roman Empire? And a lot of the answers are pretty frequently.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I don't think about the Roman Empire so much as I think of other empires that influenced them, like the Visigoths, the Ostrogoths, Genghis Khan, Attila, those things and their impact on Western civilization, but not Rome so much.
Yeah, I only think about the Roman Empire when I'm watching a Star Trek movie that has Roman numerals in the title, and it always pisses me off because I can never remember. Why we have Roman numerals, I don't know, but
I can only remember up to 10. Anyway, I only ask because I have one of my notes is Kirk says, well, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. And I'm like, oh, yes, men thinking of Rome every day, even in the far future.
I mean, at least we're thinking sometimes.
Yeah. So the premise is that the aliens want to see which is more powerful, good or evil. And of course,
a tale as old as time.
Exactly. And they're so advanced, they realize that the only way that this can happen is fighting.
Very arena style. Like, we just got to pit okay, so we've got Kirk's hero, Abraham Lincoln, which, can anybody tell me why? Great guy. Do not get me wrong. Not discrediting him. All I'm saying is the man was more akin to like a grandpa and did a lot of hemming and hawing in regards to his presidency and actions to be taken. But that's another conversation for another time.
Well, it's like we've talked about before. Kirk is happier in a primitive civilization, and so he probably studies primitive civilization.
And Lincoln was only 100 years prior to the writer's room of that time, as opposed to 150 years.
And besides, there's a Lincoln on the Paramount lot all the time. Bring him in here. Let's write him into a show. We'll borrow him from that other show.
I feel like maybe every 8 episodes they have to remind Americans, like, hey, isn't America like super cool? Remember how cool America is?
Yeah.
So it's Lincoln for Kirk. It's Surak, who is the father of Vulcan philosophy, for Spock.
And he shows up, and my immediate reaction was, who's this nerd? Because he just comes waltzing around the corner being a Vulcan.
Vulcan Buddha.
Vulcan-y.
Here he is.
Vulcan Buddha.
And so they pit these 4, this is your good, against your evil.
Now let's meet our lineup for the evils.
Genghis Khan. Okay.
Pretty evil. I mean, look what he did to Rome.
Stop thinking about Rome. Genghis Khan, Kalis, who is a Klingon god.
Yes.
Which I thought was interesting. Because I don't know enough about the Klingon origins of Kalis to know what we're dealing with here, whether this is the personification of Klingon Jesus or...
Kalis was the conqueror who forged the first bat'leth to destroy the great dragon that was preying on all of the Klingons.
Oh, Kalis the Unforgettable, apparently, is his name.
Who can forget? Apparently me. Then I'm
just surprised you forgot that wonderful episode of The Next Generation when they were forced to deal with a clone of Kalis. and Worf didn't believe.
That's right.
But so many others did.
And then there was a woman who did experiments on people, and her name
Zora.
was Zora.
Zora of Tiburon, who ran body chemistry experiments on tribes people.
And she certainly looked like a doctor.
I'm sure Khan would love her.
Yeah, see, that's who they should have had. But anyway, and then Colonel Green,
genocidal war leader,
who is a character I believe that they've revisited a couple of times in a book or something like that. I know it because we just didn't know enough about him. But you had to trust us. He's a bad guy. Trust us.
Were there no other human bad guys?
The obvious
George
was,
W. Bush.
The
he was like 15.
The obvious was Hitler. You got Hitler
they already
on
did
the
that. They already
Paramount lot.
did. Yeah, they already did a Hitler episode.
Because I get to see, instead of Colonel Green, Kirk trying to negotiate with Hitler. Oh, come on. We know that these are the rock creatures, the bad guys. We know that. We're happy to discuss.
But these are the people we're up against, and of course the baddies unite and immediately come up with tactics and are so quick to quickly take over the other four.
Exactly, because like the Democrats, the four good guys are all arguing about how to handle the situation.
Well, they want to follow the rules, and so Surak is like, I'm gonna go talk them into peace, and I'm like, okay, good luck with that, my guy.
Spear.
And then Abraham Lincoln goes to find our friend Surak, and they kill
Spear.
Lincoln again.
Again.
And he's like, oh, wrong theater.
How was the play, Mr. Lincoln?
Yeah. It's funny because I could always make Jeff Weiss laugh by simply doing this when I'd see him across the room. If he was just sitting over there caught up in reading or whatever it was, I could just go,
nerd. That guy read.
I would just go like this. Help me, Spock.
Well, I know that Kalis is supposed to be doing these great impressions of the other team, and
he was the Rich Little of Ancient Klingon.
They all sound the same.
Yeah.
Help me, Spock.
Yeah.
Now, can you cry like Lincoln? Help me, Kirk.
Help me, Kirk. Nailed
Speared.
it. If we hypothetically, this little rock pervert mines our brains for who we think are the greatest heroes of the modern times. Who do you think he's picking? Like a Greta Thunberg type? Malala?
Well, Connor McLeod of the Clan McLeod.
Well, if he's probing my mind, it's Hunter S. Thompson, which would just be bad for the bad guys because
not ideal.
Wait,
Thompson comes cocaine fueled and armed. So
I'm thinking the second Roman Emperor Tiberius.
There you go.
Bit of trivia for this episode. Lincoln tells Kirk, there's no honorable way to kill, no gentle way to destroy. There is nothing good in war except his ending. This speech, written by Star Trek screenwriters, has become so popular that some people mistakenly believe it to be something the real Abraham Lincoln said.
Excellent. They're falling for it.
It's like when people left The Martian and were like, wow, is that based on a true story?
It is.
Oh, man.
I did read a little bit of trivia about General Green's costume. It's rumored that costume was repurposed for Robin Williams to wear during Mork and Mindy.
That's the rumor.
Yep.
They just put a white triangle on the front.
Yeah, and if it weren't for the fact that when I watched the serialized Superman shorts from the 1940s and realized that the entirety of Krypton's council was wearing recycled costumes from the Larry Buster Crabbe Flash Gordon serial from a decade earlier, I was like, oh, they really do hold on to those. Firefly, Joss Whedon couldn't afford costumes for the Marines to wear on the train, so they had costumes left over from Starship Troopers that they slapped on them. So the studios, they hold on to this stuff forever.
Unless the actors steal them.
Yeah.
You would think if they wanted to make some money, they would just auction all that stuff off instead of just getting rid of TV shows.
Yeah.
Right.
But what do I know? I'm not an executive. So are you telling me then that Mork is a refugee from the genocidal war?
No, he's actually he's from the planet of Ork. calls Orson, and
Maybe
he learns
Orson
things
was
about
Colonel
him.
Green.
Could be. Could be.
Although
Dun, dun, dun,
Mork and Mindy made an appearance in the second episode of Walking Dead. Daryl Dixon.
Really?
Is
Go
that show
find it.
on?
It's on. Go find it.
The only
that's
the
all
only
I'll-
Walking Dead news I have right now is former Geekshow panelist Derek Hunter has a short series of Walking Dead comics in the reprints going right now.
Really?
So,
Oh, good
yeah.
for him.
So if you're reading the reprinted collections of Walking Dead comics, he's got these little I think they're called short bites or small bites. They're at the end of the comics, and it's great.
And
to
that's
see.
him. Oh,
Yeah.
good. Good for
Yeah,
Derek.
it's good stuff. Good stuff.
The world's
Star Trek,
naughtiest
really.
Mormon. Yes.
Yes.
All right.
World's Naughtiest Mormon. Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of
He's got competition. All right.
speaking
go
of
ahead.
archival books and images, all our yesterdays, when Kirk, Spock, and McCoy investigate the disappearance of a doomed planet's population, they find themselves trapped in different periods of that world's past. The concept of this episode I actually really liked. I wish they could have done more with it.
I just think about the restraints and the constraints that they had at the time.
Yeah.
'Cause, man, they could have done. I think it's a really good episode conceptually.
Yeah.
Conceptually, I think it's a fantastic idea because
Yeah.
imagine your world is next to a star that's about to go supernova, but you are advanced enough that you can create an escape by traveling to your own planet's past and living out the rest of your days in that past. I think that's so fascinating.
A.C. Crispin, the author, wrote 2 books that were adjacent
Yeah.
to
Or one was
sequels
a
to this.
prequel, I think. But
Yeah.
yeah, and I love what happens to Spock because the time they travel to is before the reform of Vulcan emotions, and so he starts reverting to more the proto Vulcan Romulan style.
Because they were quite barbaric in those days.
Yeah. I mean, it was literally Surak who said, "Yeah, let's send these assholes into space. You good guys stay here and be nice." So
Pretty. I thought it was. I loved that concept, and Mr. Atoz.
Mr. A to Z.
A to Z. The fact that he was cloned, I thought that was cool. And the little discs that they would put and say, "Oh, here's the place where you could go," and the little sound it made, like "doi" when you went. So I think I'd like to go there. Well, then let me prepare you, and you go back into the past and live instead of being on the planet that's about to be destroyed. Great concept. I love it.
you're
So,
saying they could send
yeah.
me back to Rome
Oh, think about the Roman Empire every day.
while you're there?
I don't know how I feel. I feel like our imaginations as humans are better than this, where we could probably imagine a past that is different than, say, 17th century France. You know?
You got to remember that's probably because they had a set from a show or a movie set in 17th century France.
Exactly.
And they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, let's throw a little laser beam in there somewhere so it looks futuristic."
And we can reuse the catacombs jail cell set again. You know.
Yeah.
And right.
Yeah, I mean, I get. Thank you for the reminder. I guess I do have to consider the fact that they had to work with what they had, but I just
No,
feel
I'm just
like
thinking of
we can do better.
I was just thinking about how mercilessly the budget for third season Trek was cut, and like Fred Friedberger was pretty much checked out completely. They were working with I think 30 to 40% less budget per episode than they were in the first season, and it shows. It's like they were literally begging, "Seriously, does somebody have 4 Roman Legionnaire costumes we can borrow? Because we've got to do something about the Constitution over here."
Exactly. See, using your premise, Rebecca, though, what if I were to be asked, where do you want to be sent back? I'd say 50 years in the past, and then I'd go back with that knowledge, saying,
When things were really good for men.
"Yeah, no, it's going to be." I'm going to explain to society that it's about to go in a shitstorm, and we need to work on that. We got 50 years. Let's work on that.
You think that's going to work? I feel like you got to go back way further than that.
So I remember my mom in like 1973, 50 years ago, telling everybody about climate change and how we needed to do something to work about it. And they just told her to shut up because she was an irrational, hysterical woman.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm.
Maybe
Very
the
cool,
Middle
very
Ages is the way to
fun.
go.
I would go 50 years in the future, right before the aliens come to destroy the world, except for that one lady, Asta, who's that alien guy's friend. That's a different science fiction show.
That's a different show.
Yeah.
If I were to go back 50 years, like to the 1950s, honestly, I don't think I'd mind it. I would just settle down, be a simple.
70 years ago.
Listen, I'm a woman. I don't know how to do math. If I could go back to like the 50s and just let all of my decisions be made for me, not so bad. Lead in all of my water.
That's true. So Kirk gets sent back to like the 1800s of their time, and it's remarkably similar to
a Cromwellian period, this description says.
Where everybody can be accused of being witches, and that's convenient when you're from the future. You can just say, you're a witch, screw you. And that guy, he had such the look, it was like he was prepared for that look.
He's probably playing a witch hunter in some TV show down the lot.
Exactly. But then Kirk and Spock are sent way into the past to the Ice Age, where they meet this woman who has been punished. We never did find out what her crime was.
Again,
did we?
Would love to know more. Like, because she is punished there by Zor Tara or something like that. Like, why? What did you do? Why were you punished in such a way that you were sent there to be there by yourself because this guy wanted to destroy your whole family? Tell me more.
She ripped her tags off of her mattresses. That's what
happened.
God.
Yeah.
Oh.
Every Class M planet. Class M stands for mattress.
Mattress. We're going to the mattresses. That's a whole nother thing.
So they actually described it as a Cromwellian society?
I mean, that's what this description on IMDb
I'm just surprised.
says.
Like, that's a period of time in British history that most Americans don't know anything about. So I'm just surprised to be like, oh, by the way, you plebes, you don't understand this. Even Leigh, who's not as obsessed with Rome as other men, barely knows anything about Cromwell.
And it was a chance for actresses to use their real heavy, accent that they've been workshopping,
Honestly, thank goodness I had subtitles on because the nonsense this woman was spouting.
Yep. And
bring people in from colonial Williamsburg to act for the weekend.
Lead the way, darling. I mean, if you think Scotty's accent is heavy, it's this woman was she was acting. She was,
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of interesting that nobody's first course of action was to start calling for Mr. Atoz. That would have been my first, like, hey, Atoz, help. We goofed. We did help.
But you've mastered the escape room. So
I have mastered the escape room.
I think you, the master of the escape room, would be like, I think I see right through this. It's Mr. Atoz.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right.
These guys,
you
they
got me
didn't
there.
even know what an escape room was.
So this
hysterical
every
woman to
room
show
was
them
an
through.
escape room.
So another little revelation that happened in this episode is apparently Vulcans are vegetarians. Or at least vegan.
Because he mentions that he had animal flesh and he liked it.
Yes.
Of course he did. He's a real man.
Yes. So that was an interesting little revelation. McCoy's contempt for Spock in this one was a little unnecessary, I think. I think McCoy should know Spock better than this.
But also, hear me out. McCoy is just coming out of like near frostbite death and probably pretty irritated at the whole situation.
Oh, he was, yeah.
Because here's the thing. I hate being cold more than anything in this world. So I get it. I would be extra pissy too.
My mom always said that anybody that was that cranky towards somebody probably had a crush on them.
I mean,
could be. This is the gayest show after all.
Everybody.
Man.
I had read a
Sometimes
thing.
I forget how gay this show is.
It's so gay. I read
so
a
gay.
thing where somebody had asked Gene Roddenberry, like, "Hey, were these guys gay?" And he doesn't confirm or deny, but he's like, "Listen, I don't know what life is like in the future, but there's theory that like the reason Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner were cast was because they had in the past played queer-coded characters, and so they were able to bring that element into the show."
There's a whole section of the novelization of Star Trek: The Motion Picture, as written by Gene Roddenberry, where in Kirk's voice talking about how many people had assumed that they were so close that they had to have been lovers. And we're talking like a page and a half, and of him finding
I'll
it
dig
amusing.
it out. Yeah.
Yeah, he finds it so amusing because while he's not repulsed by homosexuality in any way, shape, or form, Spock is just a friend, and
when we, as Space Show continues, and if I'm still allowed to be here, when we do Star Trek the Motion Picture, I'll dig that out because I have the novels right over there.
seriously, Rebecca, Star Trek the Motion Picture is like a 3-podcast movie.
Oh.
You will have to play
Oh.
3 podcasts at the same time to get
Well,
through it.
I could talk about it 3 podcasts length. Yes. I'm the only one who likes it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's a
Well,
piece
I'm
of history.
exci-
It belongs in a museum.
Yes.
Well, I am excited to talk to you guys about because let me tell you, the other day I spent maybe 2 hours working on the upcoming timeline of the Space show, and it's a doozy.
You have graphs. Oh, good.
I have a spreadsheet. It's a 5-year mission, really. It's insane. But this episode, according to the star date, this episode is chronologically last in the series, even though its production number and air date are earlier than Turnabout Intruder. This is therefore the last voyage of the USS Enterprise in the original series, and this is also the
really?
last time travel episode. Yeah.
Oh, I
and
didn't
it's
know.
it's regarded pretty highly. And I know the whole reason why Turnabout Intruder, the next episode, didn't air when it was supposed to was because Dwight Eisenhower died the day that it was supposed to air.
Yes.
And so everything was preempted because that was during a period of time where people cared about presidents.
Wow, can you imagine?
Yeah.
The other bit of trivia for this episode, the name of the librarian, Mr. Atoz, is, play on the phrase A to Z. Author Jean Lassette Eros, I don't know how to say her last name, was a UCLA librarian at the time that she wrote the script. So,
Oh, of course. So she...
Librarians are the true heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they are, but
They really are.
they really are.
Don't let my
Well-
mother-in-law hear you say that.
does she not like
She's a li-
librarians?
No, she's a librarian. She was like one of the head librarians of the Santa Fe library system.
It'll go to her head, is what he's saying. Yeah.
Yeah. She'll be like, look, Star Trek proves it. Librarians are the best.
We get it. You know the alphabet.
Yeah.
Well, the last episode of the original series, and probably one of my favorites, Turnabout Intruder. Kirk's insane ex-lover, Dr. Janice Lester, forcibly switches bodies with him in order to take command of the Enterprise. We've got a Freaky Friday, everybody.
Oh, they don't mess around either. It's like that hits before. And when I was a kid and I saw that, I was like, how'd they do that special effect? Now I'm like, well, they did, and yeah,
It was easy.
wow, wow.
It was hard back then, though, I imagine. Coming up with the way to do it.
So good, you guys. It is quintessentially like, if you cannot figure out why your grumpy old grandpa can't figure out why the world is the way it is right now, you need to
He
watch
probably got
this
Freaky
episode.
Friday.
Well, and you got to watch this episode and realize that this was considered fairly progressive by 1969 standards.
And William Shatner doing some of his best work in this episode. He's sitting towards the end of the show. You can kind of tell when he's not wearing a corset, and the man's wearing a corset this entire episode because
Except
he
the
is
part where he's not wearing a shirt.
except the part where he's not wearing a shirt, which thank
Inexplicably.
you, everybody.
Yeah, it was like
But
standing in front of the mirror, like,
and he stands so tall. He stands with like with a feminine posture, and he sits with a very feminine posture, and he files his nails.
I loved that, by the way. That was
what a
my-
touch.
I
my
had to hit
favorite.
pause.
My favorite, though, is when somebody, I think it was Kurt, Spock was arguing with him, and he does this Michael Jackson thing with his hand to show how pissed he is, where he's like, down by his hip. And, oh, man, the hissy fits.
I want more starship captains filing their nails.
Man. Amazing.
And the whole reason she does this in the first place, and Gene Roddenberry has said he regrets this because he finds it sexist, is
Yes.
no women captains allowed. No
Yeah.
girls allowed in the captain's club.
Well, they're
Which has
hysterical.
Which has been retconned to hell and back by the time we hit Strange New
Yes.
Worlds. Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
And she she even says, now you get to experience the indignity of being a woman. Ooh.
Alone,
Janet,
better dead than alone in a woman's body.
they kept making that point that she hated the fact that she was a woman. Which I was just jaw dropping. I was just watching this, just going, "Oh my god!"
Oh, even Kirk at the end says that she was driven mad by her hatred of womanhood.
And listen, this is still while I think this is absolutely insane, and feminism and femininity is something to be worshipped and praised.
Yes.
This person still exists today. There are still women who hate women and being a woman.
And there are men who think that women shouldn't be in like political office because they're too hysterical.
I would like to read for you a quote from 2023's movie Barbie, where lawyer Barbie is arguing a case, and she says, "This makes me emotional and I'm expressing it. I have no difficulty holding both logic and emotion at the same time, and it does not diminish my powers. It expands them."
There you go.
Well, obviously she wasn't Dr. Janet Lester. I just want to know what Bed Bath & Beyond, she got that bric-a-brac shelf that turns people Freaky Friday at the beginning.
The Freaky Friday shelf?
Yeah.
I would love one of those in my drape room if anybody happens to come across a Freaky Friday wall.
In the drape room to store her Tranya on. Now we talk about Shatner acting, doing his little feminine moves when he's possessed.
It's just incredible stuff.
What about her though? She crushed
it.
When she's Kirk. Really good,
Yeah,
she does a fantastic job of kind of like an effortless command of being the captain, and watching her like think of the ways to act as Dr. Janice while, hey, can I maybe talk to Dr. McCoy, pretty please? And Nurse Chapel with a brand new hairdo, by the way, debuting at the end of the show. She's no longer blonde, she's brunette. Then maybe do you think I could talk to that fine officer, Mr. Spock?
I loved that.
Loved it.
And now you love Star Trek court scenes.
Love a Star Trek court scene.
So, and this one I think was one of the best Star Trek court scenes because you got that vindictive Captain Kirk lady, and she's just being so sarcastic and everything, and
mutiny. Everyone's trying to do a mutiny on me.
Off with your head. The Senate's death.
And she wants them all dead, and then there's Scotty and McCoy are out in the hallway talking. And he's like, and Scotty's like, I know how I'm going to vote, and Scotty, we're talking mutiny and that whole thing. Soon as they walk back in the room, could you please play the tape back of the recording?
Lieutenant Lisa, who we've only seen 2 other times in the entirety of the Star Treks. Could you play that back? Lieutenant Lisa, play it back.
You'll all be charged with mutiny.
And even at the end, spoiler alert, when they get switched back, and she is so hysterical in the arms of the other doctor, like, kill him.
The doctor who secretly loved her all along. And I love that the whole thing is, what should we do with this lady that tried to take over the Enterprise, the flagship of the fleet? Let's just send her down there where her whipped doctor boyfriend can take care of her for this.
Send her down with Dr. Boyfriend.
With Dr. Conspiracy Freak.
Yeah, I mean, you got, and another great thing about this episode is you got a little bit of, and it's through just, them speaking, we didn't get to see it, the history of Janet Lester and Kirk, and how it was like.
The year that they spent together in Starfleet.
Yeah.
Yes.
What?
Which is what
insane.
I want J.J. Abrams to address this. I want to see.
He couldn't though because Kirk was in Starfleet too soon. In his shows.
One of my favorite moments is when she first goes on the bridge and she's as Captain Kirk, and she's just like kind of admiring like the chair and trying to
how do boys sit?
how the boys sit and trying to like establish command and like give orders, and everybody's asking her questions and kind of questioning what she's doing. And I also had the reaction of, oh, why are all these people questioning me? Let me do what I want to do.
I was really,
amazing.
I was really hoping that, and during the, I gotta check you out. I gotta have a physical, Jim. I was really hoping that Kirk would lean up to McCoy and go, "It's really cool to pee standing up, isn't it?"
Literally, when they first switch and she's standing up in Kirk's body, I'm like, first things first, check out the dick.
That's what you do.
You got to see if you can helicopter it. That's the first thing I'm doing if I get Freaky Friday. Also, I kind of think we should come up with like secret phrases that we all like only know, so that if one of us gets Freaky Friday, we can be like, hey, purple elephants, you guys.
She tried, but Spock's all like, that's all public record.
Yeah, that's true.
Blah, blah, blah.
That's true.
But we got to see what the little pushy things on the wall were for in sickbay. And yeah,
we saw him in Charlie X. We saw that.
Yeah.
But
leg exercises.
Kirk's corset was very, very obvious throughout this entire thing. Is the straps and I mean, it's possible that it was there to help with his back because supposedly he hurt his back. It's also possible that knowing Shatner like we do, that it's just the extreme vanity because, I mean, he was in great shape. It's obvious. But by 1969 standards, he might have been a little puffy.
And I thought I read that he was sick during the shoot.
Had the flu.
Yes, a piece of trivia I have. William Shatner had a severe case of flu during filming of this episode. At one point, he had to lift Sandra Smith into his arms, carry her to a couch, and put her on it. During the first take, he got as far as the couch and dropped her. Fortunately, it was well padded, and Smith bounced several times. Shatner looked down at Smith and said, "You know I love you, baby, but you've got to lose about 6 inches off that ass."
Whoa.
Wow.
Classy fellow.
Man. There is a scene on the bridge where he's just flop sweating, and that's just him with the flu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to attribute it to him acting like hell, or the makeup people being there and on it with a spray bottle, but he was sick. I
found a neat little bit of trivia about 3 of the actors on this show, on this episode, that have been on almost, in several cases, more episodes than a lot of the primary actors. And it's the 3 red shirts that are most prominently guarding in this episode. They were James Doohan, Shatner's, and
McCoy's?
DeForest Kelly's stunt doubles. Yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
But the one guy who plays, I think he plays Lieutenant Leslie, who was the most prominent red shirt ever shown, actually has more screen time than both Sulu and Chekhov. Not screen time, but more appearances on Star Trek, because he's just pretty much always there. It was one of the few red shirts not to die. And in this episode, you get to see all 3 of them. So they have a ton of screen time, because if it's ever Doohan or DeForest Kelly, they're playing them in the stunts, but then they're usually one of the red shirts that goes down on the away team too. So it's kind of cool how they got to get that much screen time because they were there. Might as well use them, right?
Absolutely.
So.
Fascinating. Well, dang it, you guys, we did it. That's the original series.
Well, let me just say this. I got a couple of things. First of all, since we're finishing the original series, I brought some of my toys.
Yes.
This is a limited edition Mr. Sulu figure in blue.
What's he doing in blue?
That he only wore it once.
His first appearance.
And yes, his first appearance. And I got it
that's
autographed,
true, huh?
as you can see there.
George 97.
97.
And why was he wearing blue in his first appearance?
Science botanist.
He was an astrobotanist.
Yes. But this is I've been waiting for this because you finished the original series. I mean, I know we're going to do Man Trap next time.
Cage.
Because you finished all of the Kirk, excuse me. You finished all the Kirk episodes. So I have, next time you're coming over, I have a gift for you.
Is that?
This is for you. This is
Look at him.
It's the Kirk action figure in his captain's chair.
Look at
reproduction of
him.
his captain's chair.
Oh, I love him.
So this is for you. Next time you come over, take this home. This is for you.
Excellent.
I also
Oh my
have
gosh, I'm so
something
excited.
to say, Rebecca. I'm thoroughly impressed because when you first said this is what we're going to do for the spaceship show or the space show, and I thought, and this is no slam against you, this is basically just an acknowledgement that 79 episodes of a 60-year-old television show is a
Yeah.
lot to
It's
take
a
on.
lot.
And
Honestly, I didn't think you'd do it.
it's been badass. It's been wild. It rekindled my love of the original series watching you go for this ride. And so, yeah, congratulations. This is
Oh,
Mhm.
quite
thank
the
you.
milestone.
Thank you. I'm very proud of myself. When watching these last couple of episodes, I was because I loved Bewitched. I think I do like shows from the 60s because like I watched a ton of like Bewitched.
Sure.
And I'm so like, what kind of 60s show do I want to watch now? Because I feel like there's something in the simplicity that I really enjoy.
Well, TV was
And
pretty new.
yeah,
Yeah.
what a concept.
Mhm.
So now accepting recommendations for shows from the 60s. We're gonna keep going on. We're gonna keep following the Star Trek path. Because I'll have to share with you guys off air the spreadsheet that I've created for the 5-year mission.
Oh, wow.
That's
We're talking over 800 episodes of a TV show.
yeah. So if you guys are down to clown,
counting. And counting.
Yeah.
They just keep making more.
Yeah.
The space show may never end if this is the direction. Wow.
truly, seriously, I don't know what we're gonna do.
It's wild to think of the period of time that this was made. The Berlin Wall was still standing. We had just lost Kennedy. We had just lost Martin Luther King. We had just Malcolm X. There's so many people during this period of time. The Vietnam War was going on, and to have this optimistic little show saying we'll be better someday.
Yeah.
I have a friend who he credits Star Trek for his depression because he watched a lot of Star Trek as a kid, and
Yeah.
now that he is an adult and life is not this way, he's really bummed out about it, and so he credits Star Trek for his depression.
My mom, I mean, I say it all the time, but my mom's the one that said it, is that we have to go through, and literally this is Star Trek canon, we have to go through the Mad Max times before we get to the Star Trek times. And
We've got another Civil War coming that we got to prepare for,
And that'll be in Deep Space Nine.
and the eugenics war, because the eugenics war keeps getting delayed because people keep trying to go back in time to kill Hitler, and stop doing that because you're just delaying the inevitable.
I am wildly excited to see you get through the Bell riots in DS9 because for something that was written in 1992 or 1993, it is terrifyingly prescient of what we're going through right now in society.
Yes.
Ay, Dios mío. What's so funny is I'm noticing now that I am on like Star Trek Twitter, a lot of DS9 love. Like DS9 is a lot more prevalent and loved than
Wasn't there at the time.
Not
I
at,
believe
yeah,
it.
not at the time. There
Yeah.
were just handfuls of us who were saying
Yeah.
this is the best Trek ever, and
It
people
was
going,
it was like being a prequel fan around original trilogy fans, right? So the DS9 fans, you had people that couldn't stand the linear storytelling that was going on and just how philosophical it was, or that it was on a space station. They weren't boldly going, they were boldly hanging out. So,
That was the first complaint. I would hear it every time whenever I'd stick up for Deep Space Nine. It says, well, they're not going anywhere. And I'm like, watch the show, man. Come on.
Yeah, but DS9 is why one of the reasons why I consider the last two next gen movies to be such a travesty, because you literally have this entire Dominion war going on in Deep Space Nine, and they're just like, how about we go to a planet where Worf gets a zit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait. This is exciting. But
good.
so we're gonna do the Cage.
Yes,
next
coming
time.
up next episode, we're doing the Cage and general the original series discussion. So, we'll talk about that, and then Carrie, I'm so sorry, we are going to watch the animated series. It's only going to be four podcast episodes.
I know, but I'm telling you, I watched that first one, and I'm like, I don't know if I could do this, Rebecca.
There's
But
not
I
much.
figure if you can do the entire original series, I can do. Because I honestly, Star Trek fan, I did not like or watch the animated series. I watched one episode and said, I'm out.
So you were like 10.
Animated
you?
series? No, I was
74.
74. So I was 10. Okay.
Yeah, because I was 4 or 5 years old, and I remember thinking it was the coolest thing in the world. But I was a dumb preschool kid, right? So, but yeah, it's a little rough.
Carrie, this is the monster you created. I'm so sorry, but
Oh no.
oh no, what have I done? But yeah, so
That's
we'll talk
funny.
about we'll talk about the animated series. It'll only be 4 podcast episodes. It's okay. But then we're gonna do all of the original series movies, and we'll dedicate an episode to each movie. Just a little taste of
I'm
what's
so
to
excited. Oh, I can't wait for the first one for you.
come.
Oh,
I hear it's not
man.
very good.
No, it's amazing. It's just so 1979. Like, and
It's-
I'm glad you can find some archives of the original costumes they were going with, which is like a more disco version of the original series costumes.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
it's like if you're wearing Uhura's close outfit but slit all the way up the armpit, kind of stuff.
Okay.
And they decided to go with pajamas instead. So
Yeah. It's
Gotta be
Space
comfy.
Jammies.
yeah,
Space Jam. See, Space Jammies.
yeah.
Pump up the jam.
But by
Ease.
1979 standards, it was like, I remember it coming out and people being way blown away by it. And then,
Well, the
Empire.
effects for the time, and because when we compare the original series effects, which is all we had, which were terrible, which you need to watch those DVDs. And then there's the Enterprise up on the big screen, all lit up and
I don't
beautiful.
think the cage was remastered, so you might be seeing
I'm not sure.
untouched. Trek.
Either way, if it's on the DVDs that you lent me, Carrie, I'm gonna watch The Cage on the DVD.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure if the cage is there, but I hope so.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I'll double check. But that wraps it up for the original series. Thank you so much, Carrie. Thank you so much,
Thank
Leigh,
you.
for joining me. And we'll see you next week, where no man has gone before, but a lot of men have gone before, as they say. Okay, thanks. Bye.